Eruvin 49. Tanya Kavasud Rav Yudah Liba de Shmuel. Amrav Shimon Lamada Verdoime. L'sholosh Chatzeros Apsucha Zulazu. 3 Chatzeros A, B, and C open up into each other. Upsuchas are just arriving that make it usher to carry otherwise. If the two outer ones make an erev with the middle, A and C can bring their food into the middle and eat with the guy in the middle. Each one can return the leftovers back to their own house. So you see, according to Reb Shimon, A and C can operate with B. But the Chachamim say no, they can't. None of them can work together. Like the Gemara's approach was when he said Shloshta Nasuros. And Ozda Shmuel Tamei, Damar Shmuel, Chatzar Shabbat Shnei Mevuos. Let's say you have two alleyways, two Mevuos, that open up into a Rishus Harabim. And you have a Chatzar in between the two Mevuos. So Irvaim Shneim, if the Chatzar made an Eruv with both of the people in the Mavui, Asura im Shneim, because the two Mavuos are not connected. So the people in the two, just because the Chatzar made an Eruv with the two Mavuos doesn't connect the two Mavuos. And then and since now some people can be metatel into the Chatzar from the Mavui, it makes it even worse. But let's say the Chatzar tended to use one of the Mavuis 99% of the time. Zesh Regila Ba'asr, right? The one that the Chatzar comes into contact with on a regular basis, that remains prohibited because that's going to be the problematic because they'll be able to transfer between the two Mavuos if they're allowed to carry into the Chatzar. But the Zesh Ein Regila Ba'mutter. If one of the Mavuis, he doesn't use it all, then it would be okay for those people in the Mavui, if you made an Eruv with them, to go in there, because they're usually not going to travel in that Mavui. However, on the Rav Baravuna, if he made an Eruv with the one that he's not used to going in, Hutter Regila Latzmo. Then the regular one, if the people in the Mavui have made an Eruv with themselves, they're allowed to go. They're allowed to travel in the Mavui, even though they have an Eruv with the middle Chatzar. If the people in the Mavui had made a shituf Mavuos between themselves, so the Mavui that the guy in the Chatzar normally would use, those people made an Eruv. And the one that he doesn't use regularly, they did not make an Eruv. Vihi atzma lo irva. And the Chatzar itself was not part of that Eruv. The people in the Mavui who made an Eruv with themselves can push that Chatzar into the other Mavui. And because it's no loss to him, and therefore, because you can force Midas Stone is do something where really you don't lose out. So since the guy in the Chatzar doesn't lose out, you're allowed to force that issue. Let's say he gave a loaf of bread to be part of an Eruv Chatzeros, but he's makpid that he doesn't want people to eat that. So then ein Eruv or Eruv. Then the Eruv is not a good Eruv. Yeah, an Eruv has to be something that they share. Mashmo Eruv Shmo. And if there's no Eruv, there's no Eruv. However, Chanina Amar Eruv Eruv. It is an Eruv. It's like a stingy, they're considered stingy. But it's not that it ruins the Eruv. If you divide the Eruv into two Kalim, not into one Kali, then it ruins the Eruv. Kiman Kebei Shammai, like we learned yesterday, the Tanya, Chamisha Shekovu es Eruvam, Unesanu b'shnei Kalim. If they gathered up the Eruv and they put it into two Kalim, Beis Shammai Omrim Ein Ze Eruv. Beis Shammai says it's not a good Eruv. Beis Elona raised the Eruv, and Afilu Tem Beis El Kalokam Beis El Hasan of the Ma'il and Mon of Iser. They filled up one kli and it got left over. So then he'll say 2 kelim will work. But if he divided it up, one into this kli, one into that kli, even Beis Hillel will say it's not a good eruv. So why do I need both of the cases that we learned yesterday? In this case, Tartalam, Tzrichi. If I would have learned over there, Mishum de Kapit, that's in the case where he's makpid regarding his eruv, just as one of people to eat it, aval hocha, where they're not makpid. Even if it's 2 kelim, maybe aim alone, it should be okay. So we have to be told that it's not okay. Maybe here Beis Hillel says it's not good because they divided it. Aval hocha, where it's intact, aim alone, maybe it would be a good eruv. So I needed the machlokas in both places. Who said, did Shmuel really say that if you divide up your eruv, it's not a good eruv? The Amar Shmuel, you have a house where they have 5 houses that open up into the chutzner. In order for all the 5 people to use the chutzner, you got to designate one house to put the eruv in. So that house that they choose, his house can serve as his contribution. He doesn't have to donate to the bread. Now, my time, since it's in his basket, kiman de manach, achadami, since it's in his basket, it's considered as if it's in his house. Achanami, kiva de manach basal, kiman de manach achadami. So, Amar le hasam aval pisha ein pas. The chiddush over there is, even though he doesn't participate by giving any money to the bread, it's just they're using his house. My time, the kula chadairi. All they've done by placing the loaf in his house is they've made the other people as if they are dwellers in his house. So it makes it like it's one Rosh Hashanah, not 5 Rosh Hashanahs. Because that's the problem. Chazal didn't like 5 Rosh Hashanahs opening up into one Rosh Hashanah, which is the Chatzar, because it looks too much like going into Rosh Hashanah. The concept of the Eruv Chatzeros is by them putting the loaf of bread into one house, it makes it as if it's one house. And therefore his house is that house. He doesn't have to add any bread to that. Okay. Amar Shmuel. Eruv mishum kinyan. How does an Eruv work? Each one was acquired the zechus to use that dira by giving some money, buying a loaf of bread, putting it there. In essence, Shmuel says it's like a kinyan. The entire they mind koinim b'ma. How come you use bread? How come you can't use money? Sometimes money is not available Erev Shabbos. Everybody has bread Erev Shabbos, so you use something that's available. So the Gemara says, but let's say you have money. Why wouldn't it work if you used money? Because people will say, oh, you know what? The real Eruv is to be made with money. The zim and the lo shchiach ma. And sometimes they won't have the money. The lo asi l'eruv v'pasim. They won't know that you can make an Eruv with bread. The asi Eruv like kalkuli, and it will lead to a kilkul. People will carry without an Eruv. So that's Shmuel who says Eruv mishum king. Rabba Amar Eruv mishum dira. No, the Eruv creates as if all of them are now part of that dira. They're dwellers of that dira. And it doesn't do with king. Now, my binayu, what's the nafkamina between these two svaras? It could be binayu kli. One nafkamina would be if you use a kli instead of a loaf of bread. According to the one who says it was because of kinyan, well, you can make a kinyan with a kli, like a kinyan sudar, like when we lift Rabbi Krause's pen when we sell the chametz. But by putting a kli into somebody's house, that doesn't make you a dweller there. So that would be enough kamina, kli. Or pachos mishava pruta. There's no kinyan less than shava pruta. So according to Shmuel, if you did something with less than shava pruta, it wouldn't work. But according to Rabbah, where you're koivea a mokum for your dira, so you can be koivea mokum even if it's less than a shava pruta. Or the case of a cotton. So if a cotton is one of the people who dwell in this chotzer, he can't be makne his reshus because he's a cotton. A cotton has no das. There's no king. According to the concept that it's just becoming a member of the dira, a cotton can be a member of the dira. Abai says, I have a kasha on both, you and Shmuel. Hatanya, we have a brayso, Chamisha should go say Reuven. 5 people collected money to buy a loaf of bread. Kishem moidlichen say Reuven l'mokum acher. If they want to move that loaf of bread to a different chotzer, echad moilich lekulan. One person can serve as a shaliach. So understand, who knew the kokani v'sulo? Only he's making the. If you say it's a kinyan, it's only him who's making the kinyan. The rest of them are not. And who knew the kodai v'sulo? So that's the havamina is that he's doing it by himself. Amar lei lo l'didi kash lo shmol kash shlichus tekula kohabit. He's serving a shaliach. He can make shlichus regarding this. He can be a shliach for the kinyan. He can be a shliach for the dira.
Tony, let me ask you if there's 5 people living in a chatzah, right? There's 5 different people, and one person goes around Erev Shabbos and collects all the lechem.
Yes,
that's not allowed. It's allowed.
No. Erev Shabbos prior. No, but this was a case where.
But I'm asking you a different case. I understand this is a case where it's ani.
Where they moved it to a different
location.
Normally, what happened is you go around, collect money from each one of the people. You buy a loaf of bread with that money, and you put the loaf of bread in one of the batim. That's how normally it's done.
Okay.
Mishnah.
Yeah, but if the person wanted to go collect, they didn't have money. He just the one person went and collected all the lechem. Would be the same thing. Wouldn't be a problem.
Same thing, no problem. Mishnah. Person's traveling. He realizes he's not going to make it to his house before Shabbos. So what do? I am Makir Ilan God there. He knows that there's a certain tree near his house. And he knows that tree is within 2,000 amas of where he is, and he knows that tree or fence or some landmark is also within 2,000 amas of his house. So he can make a statement. V'amar shvisasi tachta. I am going to make my Shabbos domicile under that tree. So now, no problem. Now he can go 2,000 amas to that tree, and he can go from that tree to his house. Even though Shabbos came, normally we talk about you have to put bread down or food down to make an Eruv. Here he can do it with his words. He can create his domicile with words and therefore extend his tchum. However, he says, Amar shviv sasi tachtav lo amar klum. Now, if he says tachtav, underneath the tree, so the Chazal considered that too vague. You didn't establish a specific domicile. However, if you said shvisasi bi'ikaro, I want my domicile to be at the foot of the tree, at the base of the tree. So then it's koine shvisa. He can travel from where he is to the tree if it's 2,000 amas. So we call it base like a regular tchum. You can get 2,000 regular and 2,000 extended. Now, let's say he doesn't know of any tree or landmark. He may know makir. He doesn't know this halacha, that it would work. The Omar Shvisasi bin Komi, and he says, I'm going to make my shvis is going to be where I am right now. So even though he doesn't have any bread with him, he's created his makom shvisa where he is, and he has 2,000 amas in every direction. He can't. Let's say his house is 3,000 amas away from him. He can't go to his house, but he can go 2,000 amas west, 2,000 amas east, 2,000 north, 2,000 south. Now, when you create a tchum like that, the Tanakama says, Agulos, Divrei Chanina ben Antigonus. It's a circular, it's like you're at the middle of a circle, and the radius is 2,000 amas in every direction. The Chachamim know merubas. It's like a square. And therefore you gain the sort of, if you circumscribe a square, right? If you put a circle within a square, so the square has those extra corners. So the Chachamim are more lenient to give you more of an area to walk. Right? Because you gain the corners. The Zui Sha'amru, Ani Mar Baragla. That's what we've always said, that an Ani, the person who doesn't have any bread, he can make an Eruv with his feet. Wherever he is, he can say, this is my domicile. Amr Meir, Anu ein lanu ela ani. No, it only works for an ani. If it's a Asher, it won't work. However, you know, no, it works for everybody, even an Asher. They allowed Pas to make it lenient on the Asher. If you drive with your car 3 o'clock, 5 hours before Shabbos, and you lay down a piece of bread somewhere, and then you go back home, so it's made it easy for you. Otherwise, you have to physically be there with your body Erev Shabbos when Shabbos starts, Bein HaShmoshes. So it's a tool to make it easier. Now,
very strange Mishnah. Mishnah is very long. It sounds like a Shatla Vataria Gemara. I mean, it's like a strange Mishnah.
Well, first, Agulos, remember, once we said you make your own Eruv where you are, so the Gemara, the Mishnah here is dealing with how does it work? Is it a circle and you can go a radius, or a square? It's a continuation of that halacha. And then it described this issue of why does it work that you don't need bread? You could just say it with your words. This concept of ani versus ashir. So it's really all connected. So the Mishnah started off by saying, if you say shvisasi tachtov, if you just generally refer to the tree, underneath the tree, the Mishnah said lo amar klum. Amar Rav lo amar klum kol iker. That filo tachtov shelo lo matzi azil. That means he only has arba amos. He doesn't get anything. That's what Rob says. But ushmul amar lo amar klum leveso. It means he can't go 3,000 amas, right beyond his current 2,000 amas, but he can go to the tree. If the tree is within 2,000 amas, aval tachtov shalila matzi also. The nasa tachtov shalila and chamar gamol. Remember, the location of the tree, he can only go to the tree, but not beyond the tree. Balim dad minat sofa and mori minat dorom. Balim dad minat dorom, mori minat sofa. We're machmir in every direction. That means from his arba amis rishonos, you go 2,000 amas in one direction. Rashi says, "Shema arba amis shel sofa ilan tzad beso bachol." You can't go beyond the 4 amas of the tree. You're really stuck. You can just go to the tree, can't go any further. And you certainly can't go 4,000 amas. So they're machmir because of the lack of specificity you did when you stated, as opposed to saying Shvisa b'makom ikaro, by the trunk of the tree. Okay, so we will learn tomorrow, Motzei Yom Kippur at 8:30.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Tzom kal, everybody.
Have an easy fast. Have an easy
Tzom
fast.
kal,